Hey folks, Mark back again with a little bit of a vinyl update. Hope you're all doing well. I'm going to show you a few things I picked up this past weekend here in the northern Ohio area, and then just a couple other random things I got over the last month and a half. So let's get into it. We'll start with some 12-inch releases. These I got just this past weekend. I'm reaching over to grab them right now. And some things I got at Square Records in Akron, a little record store, but definitely a case of quality over quantity. They have really good stuff, a lot of good used releases, 7 inches, and new releases as well on vinyl and CD. Then also picked up a few things at a store called Loop, which is a coffee shop / record store in near downtown Cleveland. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to show, were from over at Square. These are in their used bin. This for $3 is ornamental. It's a 12-inch called Crystal Nights on the One Little Indian label. This came out in, when did this come out? 1988. And I remember seeing another 12-inch by them around this time, but never this one, so I got it. What sold it to me was seeing who the vocalist was on the record. I never realized it was Rose McDowell, and she used to be in Strawberry Switchblade in the mid-1980s. So curious to hear this one. Haven't heard any of these yet. I just picked them up. Here's another one, the French Impressionists, a group out of Scotland, Glasgow. I don't know much about them other than they had previously been on a compilation I've got called Ghosts of Christmas Past. They're on the Les Disques de Crépuscule label out of Belgium. And that label was co-founded by a woman named Anique, who recently passed away, sadly. But the label was really cool. They released a lot of things that Factory Records had put out. So a lot of the bands that put things out on Factory and even Postcard over in the UK released things on the Belgian label, Les Disques de Crépuscule. Drudy Column, you can find acts, Drudy Column. Joseph K. had a release on that label as well. So many other different acts. Paul Haig. So I picked up this. It was $4. Curious to hear it. The French Impressionists from the early 80s. I'm going to think like 1982 probably. Found this. This was out on the Astralworks label here in the U.S. It's a 12-inch by Amorphous Androgynous called Liquid Insects. This came out, 1993. And Amorphous Androgynous is the more electronic ambient offshoot of Future Sound of London. It's an alias in which they recorded under. Later, there have been Amorphous Androgynous releases that have been full-blown guitar-based psychedelia. So definitely an act to keep your eye on. Amorphous Androgynous. Here's a 12-inch on the Cutting label. I like things on the Cutting label. This is a label from the late 80s, early 90s that released a lot of electro freestyle stuff. And this particular release is by Corina. It's called Out of Control. And Corina had a chart hit over here in the U.S. in the late 1980s called Temptation. That disco New York freestyle sound. Check out Corina if you're into that kind of thing. A couple of new releases. Craft Spells. Very Factory Records-ish act on the Captured Tracks label. This is their second album. It's called Nausea. And it's Craft Spells. And it did come with a download card. And so I've been really like the first album. If you're into, I don't know, I keep saying Factory Records. If New Order and Bunnyman, that kind of thing is your vibe, check out Craft Spells. Here's an act I really haven't checked out yet. They're called A Sunny Day in Glasgow. They're from Philadelphia. And I keep hearing about them. And this album was $13. So I thought I'd check it out. It's from 2014, so it's obviously brand new. A Sunny Day in Glasgow. If any of you are familiar with them or know more about them, shoot me a comment down below. Then I got some 7 inches there as well over at Square Records. We're still at Square in Akron. This one on the Respond label. This was Paul Weller's label. In the mid-1980s, he released a slew of 45s on it. This is by the Main T Posse, and it's a 7-inch called Fickle Public Speakin'. And the music is by Paul Weller, and the vocals are by Vaughn Toulouse, who had previously been in a London band in the early 80s called Department S that I liked a lot. Here's one called Judas Sheep by Hunters and Collectors, Australian group. Really like them. This one's from 1982 on the Virgin label. Actually, make that 1983 on the Virgin label. Hunters and Collectors. I really like them. Great stuff. They have, if you're not familiar with them, check out a song called Talking to a Stranger on YouTube. This is obviously from that era. Great, great song. Here's a duo called the Vacant Lots. They're sort of like Suicide crossed with Spaceman 3, if you're into that kind of vibe. This is a single called Confusion. I'd had this digitally, but didn't have the actual 7-inch of it. They've only got 2 singles that I know of, this one and another. And this is number 106 out of 300 on the Mexican Summer label, the Vacant Lots. Saw them open for Crocodiles about 1.5 years ago. Really good. This was just an impulse buy. It was $1. The Safaris, Wipeout. Why not? You know, it's $1. It was in good shape. The Motors, power pop band out of the UK, and a single they put out in 1980 called Metropolis. And it was a couple bucks. I thought, why not get it? The Motors. And then this band I don't know anything about. They're called Shotzi and Hazeltine. Shotzi and Hazeltine. This is a 7-inch called Happy Birthday Baby. And I got it because it was a couple bucks, and it's on the Burger label. And the Burger label's been putting out a lot of great neo-psychedelia lately. A lot of lo-fi garage type stuff. And then here's 3 7-inches on the Virgin label by Mike Oldfield. I always try and pick up Mike Oldfield records when I get a chance. And here's one of a song I already knew called Portsmouth. And that came out in 1976 on the Virgin label. Here's another one called Algiers. Actually, the A-side is William Tell Overture. B-side is Algiers. Mike Oldfield. And then here's another one called Cuckoo Song. More Mike Oldfield. Couple bucks each. You don't see Mike Oldfield 45s around much. So I thought, well, snag those. Here's an act I don't know much about. They're called the Perfect Zebras. And this is a single they put out called Another Love Story. Came out in 1982 on a tiny label called Focus Records. And I have a 12-inch by them called Running with Zebras that I got, God, like 25 years ago. Forgot all about them. So when I saw this single, I was like, I remember them. They're produced by Barry Andrews from Shriekback and XTC. The Apollinaires. I don't know much about them. This is a single called The Feeling's Gone. Came out on 2-tone. Nice label there. Try and reduce the glare here by showing you the sleeve there. Don't know much about them. I don't even know if they got around to an album. But there you go. On 2-tone. The Apollinaires. And here's a single by a group called The Carrots. Don't they look fun? This is a 7-inch on the Elephant label, based out of Spain. The band looks like they're based out of Austin, Texas, though. So they're called The Carrots, and this is a 7-inch called Doing Our Part. Looks like a 4-track 7-inch on the Elephant label. And then here's a split 7-inch by Trust, a really great new electronic band called Trust. I really like them a lot. And this is the 7-inch split with a group called Trinity. And I believe it's a split 7-inch. Hang on a minute, I could be wrong. Trust Candy Walls with... No, it's just by Trust. It's not a split 7-inch. It's just a 7-inch by Trust called Trinity. B-side's called Candy Walls. And it's on Sacred Bones. Kind of cool. Trust, good stuff. If you like, you know, darker electronic disco, check them out. Good stuff. Not an act that you typically find on the Sacred Bones label. They're more psychedelic guitar based. All right, now a few other things. These things I got at Loop Records in downtown Cleveland, in an area called Tremont. So I picked up 4 albums there. I'd been looking for this one for a while. This is by Doug Tuttle. He used to be in Moss, duo called Moss. And this is an album he put out just earlier this year on his own on the Trouble in Mind label. And I've heard great things about it. I think Raymond in the VC had shown this album before. So a couple other people too. So thought I'd check it out myself. Doug Tuttle, self-titled debut album on Trouble in Mind. Don't know much about this. Mungo's Hi-Fi, 12-inch called Rough Ma Tough. And it's on the Scotch Bonnet label. Looks like good dub reggae kind of thing. The B-side is called Live in Peace with Rough Ma Tough Rhythm. There you go. A couple other things. Todd Terry remix of a 12-inch by Watkins. It's called Black AM. I like anything Todd Terry does. And a great Chicago house producer. And this is one of his records, or a record he did by Watkins called Black AM. It was only $1. Came out, I'm trying to find the release date on here. Came out, gosh, I really can't tell you, and it doesn't really say here. But there you go, Todd Terry. And then a new release by Tyga versus Audion. Tyga, one of the more interesting electronic artists that I've found over the last 10 years. And John Travolta here on the 12-inch. It's Tyga versus Audion. Audion, I found out, is an alias of Matthew Deere, another really cool electronic artist over the last 10 years. So I'm real curious to hear this. This is a brand new release. And I don't really know what label it is on. The Turbo label, it looks like. So, got a couple other things on the Turbo label. Tyga. And then just a couple other things. I got this at Austin Psych Fest earlier this year. The Temples album called Sun Structures. I'm sure most of you have heard this. If you haven't, and you like good psychedelic, dreamy pop, this is right up your alley. An English band. And they've been touring around here in the States over the last few months. Temples, Sun Structures. Highly recommend this album. And then, finally, a band based out of Cleveland from the early 1980s, 82 to 84, called System 56. Well, they never released an album. They did do an EP and a couple of 7-inches that are long out of print. But this label called Synthetic Shadows out of Italy has reissued much of their material on this full-length album called System 56. Very much like Ultravox, Gary Newman, Modern English, just early 80s, new wave, based out of Cleveland. Great band. System 56. If you want to get a good example of what they're like, YouTube a song called Metro Metro. You will love it if you're into things like Ultravox. Anyway, that's it. Mark here giving you a little vinyl update. I'll see you back in another couple of months, or a month if I find some more stuff. And in the meantime, see you later.